Hey everybody, it's Joe with Joe's Phenomenal and welcome to another video. Today we're going to get into a creepy Halloween recipe. We're going to be making some gelatin worms along with a little bit of crushed cookie dirt, all of which are made with no refined sugar. So you ready? Let's get into this. Okay, so for this recipe, we're going to need some sugar-free Jell-O, some unflavored gelatin, some no sugar added Oreo type cookies. You can actually get actual Oreo cookies that have no added sugar. They're a little bit harder to get, but you can get them. A bunch of expandable straws, and also an empty milk carton with the top cut off. In addition to that stuff, we need a little bit of green food coloring and a little bit of heavy whipping cream. With these straws, you're going to want to get yourself a rubber band that'll hold them all together like this in one bundle, and the length of these is going to determine how long the worms are. I'd recommend going ahead and stretching out all these straws so you have that rib look for your worms, but that'll also make these straws a little bit longer. I would recommend cutting off about 1/3 of your straw here after the fact with some scissors. Doesn't have to be perfect, they can be all different sizes. Just kind of do that ahead of time first. And when you're done, you'll have something like that. Next, you want to get some water boiling that we're going to dissolve the gelatin and the Jell-O in. You don't want to use just hot faucet water. You want that water to be as hot as possible. Otherwise, you might not dissolve everything completely and you could end up with clumps. Once you have that going, we can go ahead and start with our Jell-O. You want to pour in all your Jell-O. Oops. And then we want to put in our regular gelatin packets. And these are just the plain unflavored type. Once you have that in here, you want to stir this up really good. The way this is right here, not the way you want it to look. You want to get this combined as good as possible, because you don't want clumps forming anywhere. You don't want any higher concentrations of gelatin anywhere else in this, because that is a ton of gelatin we're using. And once you got it mixed together good, then we can add in our boiling water. Make sure you're stirring this up really good here. You don't want any clumps in this, so you want to mix this in really good until everything's combined really well. This step is really important because if you have any clumps forming in here, it's going to make your worms look weird. You want them to look pretty lifelike. Once you've mixed that for a while, I would use a spoon just to check and make sure that it looks like it's combined really well. And once you're satisfied with that, we're going to put this in the fridge for about 20 minutes. Remember, it's only going in the refrigerator to cool it back down to room temperature. We're not cooling it off completely or chilling it or anything like that. You want to be really careful with that, so go ahead and set yourself a timer or something so you don't forget about it. Because if you let it get too cool, it's going to harden and then we're not going to be able to do what we want. You could cool it down by setting it on your countertop, but that's going to take a lot longer. Okay, we've got the Jell-O down to room temperature, and you can test that with a spoon. Basically just put the spoon in there, and just taste it really quick, make sure it's not warm. Remember, you don't want this to be too warm, because if you throw cream into this and it's hot, it's going to curdle the cream. So definitely not what we want to happen. When it's room temperature like this, you can go ahead and throw in your cream. I'm going to mix that up really good, make sure we get that combined. You want to get this even as you possibly can. You might not be able to get it super even, but you just want to do the best job that you possibly can on this. And once you got the color pretty even there, I would take a few drops of green food coloring here, throw that in, just so this isn't so red. Just to give it like a more darker, spookier looking look here. So it's not so bright, fake red looking. And once we have this mixed up, it's time for the next step. Okay, now we're going to take our empty milk carton, put that down there. You see I already cut the top off of there. You're going to want to put these straws in here. Remember, you've got them rubber banded, so they'll stay together. That's very important. And you want the little flexy parts facing downward. That way, not all these straws may fill up all the way, but you want those facing downward because you kind of want to make sure that you at least get that effect on these guys. So we'll kind of put that down in here, like so. Doesn't really have to be perfect. No, I always kind of try to make it that way anyway. And then we're going to go ahead and pour in our mixture. Make sure you hit all these holes here. Try to fill those up as much as you can. Remember, a lot of this is going to roll right on out and out the bottom. That's fine, because it's going to kind of equalize at whatever the outside level is at. But we just want to get these to fill as much as we possibly can. Once you've finished all that, this is going to go into the fridge for a minimum of 4 hours, preferably overnight if you can do that. For the next step, we're going to go ahead and create our dirts. All we need for these cookies are the cookie parts. We don't need the filling, so we're going to be scraping that out. For these cookies, I'm going to go ahead and use my food processor. If you don't have a food processor, all you would have to do is wrap up the cookies in a little bit of saran wrap and then use a meat tenderizer or a hammer or something just to crush them up really, really good. Okay, so we're just going to get all this filling out. And use just these cookies. Once you got all the cookies in there, we're just going to pulse this until we got some good looking dirt. Okay, and once that's done, we can pull all this out and set it aside. Okay, we can just pour this out onto our plate here. Okay, now for our Jell-O, we've had this in the fridge for about 4 hours. As you can see, it's nice and gelatinous now. Now, we're just gonna go ahead and cut the box off. That's a good reason for using a milk carton for this, because we don't have to worry about trying to get this out of here. We can just cut the box off. Okay, so now you see, we just basically have a big block of gelatin here. So we're gonna use a knife and we're gonna cut out around the perimeter of the straws here, because really all we care about is what's inside the straws. And we're gonna be squeezing that out onto our dirt. Also be careful not to cut your straws, because I've already done that twice. And also you can carefully cut along the bottom here, just to make sure that these aren't all going to be connected to one another. If you cut a little bit of the straw off at the bottom, that's fine too. However, if you're going to do that, don't eat the portions that you cut off at the bottom, because you're going to have bits of plastic in there. So it'll look kind of like that. The last and most tedious part is getting what's in these straws here into the dirt. So all you're going to basically do is take these straws off here one at a time. The tops should be left a tiny bit empty here. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is you take a straw and you're going to want to kind of just work this a little bit. Just kind of squeeze it around here. You want to get the contents here inside the straw loose enough to be able to squirt out. And you'll be able to tell because you'll see it kind of moving around out of the end here. Once you got it coming out of the end there, you can actually squeeze and pull. Just be careful not to pull too hard. You'll break your worms. And as you get closer to the end there, they're going to come out a lot easier like this. And there you go. All right, so we were on our last one here. And after doing this for like an hour, hour and a half, we finally figured out the best way to get these out of here. And it's basically just holding the end of the straw here and then just working up from the bottom. You just keep doing that. You can see it popping out slowly. And you can kind of feel where the bottom of it is here. It's like actually right about there now. And just keep working up, working up. And then once you got most of it out, then you can just push it all out in one shot like that. Anyway, that was our last one. So all you're really doing is you're squeezing these out here, and then you're taking a little bit of the crushed cookie here and just kind of tossing it around in there just to get a little bit of that darkness onto it so it'll look a little bit more real. And once you have them all on here, just be sure that they're all distributed pretty evenly like this. Clean up your edges, and you got yourself some worms. And as you can see on camera, those are kind of gross looking. Exactly what you want for Halloween. The only really annoying thing about this recipe is getting those worms out of the straws. Those took me about an hour and a half to get out, so if you can enlist the help of anybody else in your household at all, I'd recommend doing that, because otherwise your hands are going to start hurting and your fingers are going to end up looking like that. So definitely this project is a little bit messy, but as you can see, the result is pretty amazing. If you want to try out this recipe, all the ingredients and measurements are down in the description of the video, along with the calories, the protein, the fat, and the carbohydrates. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Joe's Phenomenal, you can check out a couple more of our videos, or you can check us out online at joesphenomenal.com. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to check out our video. And also, I hope you have a fun and safe Halloween. So until next time, my name's Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.